No, I don't think I'm getting catfished. If I was getting catfished, wouldn't they have sent a better picture? That's all I'm saying. Okay, you record. Alright, let's do it. Three, two, one. Hey kids, welcome back. It's another exciting, maybe exciting is not the right word. It's a depressing episode of No Subs, No Dubs. And I'm your host, KZK, Kamikaze Kidd, KC here. And this week we're talking about funny games, but before we get into that, I've got a shout out this week for a podcast I've been listening to. I've just listened to 4 of their podcast episodes, and I've been enjoying it. It's good. It's a back and forth. The banter's good. It's not like this one where there's me and B over there, Baka Boy, and he doesn't banter at all. It's just me looking him in the eyes, going, "You're gonna edit this and make me sound like an idiot later. I know what you're about, Baka Boy. You're gonna cut when I don't want you to cut, put it at the end, and then when I say cut this, you're gonna keep it in. So this time, let's see if you do it differently. Cut this part, and we'll go back to the recommendation, because I'm sure they don't want all that kind of that nonsense going on. We Recommend is the podcast name. I'm recommending the podcast called We Recommend. You can find this one basically just searching We Recommend Podcast. That's how I was able to find it. They sent me Linktree, which is linktr.ee/We Recommend. And I hope I don't have to spell that out for my audience. All right, you guys know there's 2 M's in recommend, I think, right? There's 2 M's in that. So if you're having trouble figuring out how to spell we and then the rest of recommend, I don't know what to say to you. But they do a good podcast. I like it. I like the banter. I like the laughter. And they basically just recommend movies they like. And all the movies they like are movies that I like. I don't think they're foreign films yet. The first one I listened to was that Barbarian film. Barbarian's newer film, The Whitest Kids You Know. If you know that show, I was watching that in high school and really enjoyed it. One of the guys, Zach Kreger, he's the director of Barbarian, and they enjoyed it. So they basically they do their talking and banter, and then they spoil the movie. So I'd suggest you watch that movie first, but it's a good movie anyway. And then you can listen to them spoil it and have their takes, and it's a good podcast. So definitely we recommend. It's a good podcast. Interestingly enough, that movie, Barbarian, was the first time I tried when I was doing the practice podcast episodes, which probably aren't going to ever see the light of day. Barbarian was one of the first ones that I went and I I did notes and I tried doing it, and then I listened to it and I was like, I didn't do very well. And then I listened to theirs and I was like, okay, they did well, because they have another person, Baka Boy. There's like a ping pong match. You're just watching me as Forrest Gump, but I'm not even good at it. I'm just hitting the ball and it's hitting the wall and I keep missing it. So it's just cut all that out, Baka Boy. Just listen to We Recommend and give them 5 stars and give them a follow as well. And also, I was looking up online what I need to do, which is they say front load your recommendations and tell your audience the call to arms, right? And the whole we did the recommendation, the whole if a rising sea drowns all sailors thing, right? And now we have to tell everyone, go to patreon.com/no subs, no dubs, spelled no subs, no dubs, figure it out. Or go to twitter.com/no subs, no dubs, pod, and follow us there. Or just wherever you found this, give it 5 stars. Use the triangle plan. You remember that? That's where I'm telling you to reach out to 2 other people. We're going to create triangles of talking back and forth to other people and getting other people to listen to this. And we're going to create a massive triangle, and everyone benefits. The more people you get below you, the more benefits I get. And Baka Boy gets as well. But Baka Boy refuses to tell people. So I need the loyal listeners to tell people, preferably rich people, and then tell them about our Patreon. Okay, enough of all that. Recommends out of the way, plugs out of the way. Let's get into funny games. Holy smokes. This is, okay. The joke, obviously, is it's not very funny, you know? It's not like watching Whose Line Is It Anyway? This is a German film, and the Germans aren't known for being funny. Not at all. Alright, let's get into this movie. This is I watched these movies twice. One time without taking notes and one time with taking notes. The first time I watched it without taking notes, and then the second time is like, oh, I don't know if I want to watch this again. I had the sound up, I was taking the notes, and I was like, it's not super brutal. It's just very disturbing and upsetting, and I don't like the idea of a trigger warning, but if you don't like dead people and dead children and dead dog, well, a dead child and dead dog, don't watch the movie. Don't listen to the podcast, I guess. Or, recommend the podcast to people who don't care about all that kind of stuff. This one, it almost felt like watching a artsy snuff film. It was well made, I'll give it that, but holy crap. So, warning, spoilers, by the way, that's what, the family dies. It's two guys go to a family's vacation home while they're there, and they torture them, and they play their funny games with them, and then they kill them, and that's basically it. So if you want to stop there and be like, okay, that's the spoiler part, that's kind of it. I'll go a little bit more in depth. So, it starts off with traveling, and you're going through Germany, but you're only seeing trees. So I guess Germany in this area is mostly trees, and you see a vehicle pulling a boat, and it's all shining like, okay? And there's classical music going on and talking, and they're talking back and forth, I guess, in the vehicle. I don't know what they're talking about, probably the classical music. Or rich people talk or about their boat or cheese or something. I don't know. But this is the boat family. And there's a balding dad who kind of looks Kevin Spacey-ish. And there's his blonde wife, Mrs. Boat. And then there's a kid who's, I wrote down the Hayseed Kid. He kind of looks like he'd be on a farm somewhere saying, not coming, you're back to Forrest Gump, can't sit here, right? Hayseed Kid's there, and they're traveling, and then the funny games comes up on the screen saying like, hey, this is what you're gonna get into, but the music goes from classical to this really crappy screaming metal music with, I assume, Yoko Ono is screaming in the background with it. It's just horrible, and then you get all the titles and everything. Okay, enough of that. So they pull off to this rich guy's house at the gate, and you see these two people, and you see these two other people, and the two other people are the bad people. These are the weirdo people. And then the two main people, the house people, who are just side characters, they'll get what's coming to them. Sorry. They will die. But right now they're alive, and they're messing with these weirdos, which you don't want to mess with weirdos in Germany. I would not suggest that, and this movie makes it perfectly clear you don't want to do that. So they pull over, and they're talking through the gate, and they're like, hey, where's our vacation home? We're the boats. We have a boat, see? And we're going this way. And they're like, how about you guys get out of here? We're talking to these weirdos, but it's up that way. And they're like, thank you. So they go up that way, and they get to their house. And their house is really nice. It's a nice little vacation place. They pull in, and this is when you get introduced to their dog. And they've got a dog named Wolfie, I think. And he comes running out and exploring, and the kid explores their vacation home. And it's like, okay, this is kind of they're going to have a good time. And the father drops off his golf clubs and he's like, this is my golfing trip. And I was like, I thought it was your boating trip, sir. Are you going to boat to a golf course that we didn't see? Are you going to hit golf balls into the lake? There's a lake, by the way. I realize I'm bad with painting the scene picture, but there's a lake and there's a house and there's golf clubs. And I don't know. There's a golf course maybe a few miles up the lake or something. But he puts down the golf clubs, and this is going to be important because a golf club is going to do some damage later. We will see that in a little bit. So the dog, the German Shepherd named Wolfie, starts barking like crazy. And this is when one of the weirdos, the short shorts guy, comes over. And he comes over with the neighbor dude that they talked to earlier. The neighbor dude's there, and they come by and they just like say hi for some reason. I'm not quite sure why they come by. Maybe it's a game. It's probably a funny game that's not really funny, So they come by and Miss Boat comes out and says hi to her neighbor. And the one guy's kind of weird. There's this weirdo. He's got really short shorts. So he's Mr. Short Shorts from now on. And he's got gloves on for no reason. He's got gloves on like it's, that's when you look at him and go, huh, Michael Jackson gloves. Okay. You seem odd, but all right. All right, so you go by now. Then he goes by, and they both leave, and they go off to the other mansion to, play some more fun games, and it doesn't go well for them. You'll see that later. If you watch the movie, which I would not suggest you do. Not a pleasant movie, this one. All right, so that Mr. Short Shorts situation happens, and Mr. Boat and his kid, the Hayseed Kid, they go to their boat, and they're gonna set it up for boating in the future. No, that's why, Baco Boy, I didn't write it in my notes, but that's why the one guy comes over, because he helps them get their boat onto the lake, and then they leave. And then that's when Mr. Boat and his kid are just hanging out at the boat. And then we go back to Mrs. Boat, and she's in the kitchen of the house, and the dog's all barking and whatnot, and she's preparing food. And this is when the other weirdo, there's two weirdos, there's Mr. Short Shorts. Mr. Short Shorts, by the way, looks like he should be singing in Oasis as the third Gallagher brother who just comes up. So he's weird looking for one, and he's got these short shorts, and he's just off-putting. And then I don't think he's a Gallagher brother, but he looks like he could be in the band Oasis. That's all I'm saying. All right, so the other weirdo at this point, I'm going to call him the thin-haired weirdo. It's just kind of thin. It looks like it's straw or something. And he's kind of the fatter weirdo. And compared to the other weirdo, he's kind of heavy set. And he's eating food later on in this movie. But the mother is home alone. This guy just kind of walks in and he's like, I would like some eggs. And she's like, okay, you want eggs? Are you going to egg my house? And he's like, no, I love eggs. So she gives him a bunch of eggs, and he starts to leave, and then he drops the eggs immediately, and she laughs about it, and she apologizes, and she's like, here's some more eggs. And then this is when he's very, very sneaky and tricky about the whole situation. He moves over because she was on the phone. I didn't mention this. Dang it. Baka Boy, cut this to where it sounds like I mentioned the phone call beforehand, but she's got one of these old 1997 or 8 phones that just a brick of a phone, and she puts it down. Well, the thin-haired weirdo is smart enough to make it look like an accident, but he purposefully hits the phone. It falls into the sink that's full of water, and the phone kind of just gets damaged and isn't going to work anymore. So he apologizes, and then Mrs. Boat kind of just laughs off the situation, gets frustrated, and picks the phone up, and the thin-haired weirdo leaves. Now, she's not really suspecting anything, but he's been figuring out how to manipulate the situation to where they can't phone anybody at this point. And the phone's put away, and she gets a cigarette and starts smoking. The dog's freaking out, and this is when the other weirdo, Mr. Short Shorts, comes back, and they're both in the foyer. So what is it called? Foyer, the entryway, okay? And they're like, we can't go outside, your dog's freaking out. And I was like, that dog smells death on these two people. This dog doesn't like these two people. And then there's some talking. It's a talking movie. There's a bunch of talking throughout this movie. So I don't know what they're talking about. I assume most of the movie they're talking about eggs. You know? Eggs and boating and golf or something. And then the dog and the situation the family stumbles in. It's not a good situation. Well, the dog's freaking out. And for some reason, Mr. Short Shorts notices the golf club in the golf club set, you know, and he takes one out and he's like, I would like to practice a swing with this. And Mrs. Boat's like, sure, go ahead. Do whatever you want. So he goes outside and then he immediately like tracks down the dog and whacks the dog. And you hear the dog barking and then a yelp or something. And then Mr. Boat and the kid are still on the boat. So they're over there and they hear the dog yelp and they're concerned. So they go back toward the house. And that's when there's a knife at the boat. The knife kind of drops into the boat itself. And you're like, okay, that knife is going to be possibly used in the future. So keep your eye out on that knife. Spoiler alert. The knife doesn't do anything for anybody. This is not a good situation anybody's in. So they go back home, and Mrs. Boat's concerned, and there's some arguing, and the two guys are still there, and they're weird. These weirdos are still there for some reason. And this is when they're like, hey, weirdos, you guys need to go. And they're like, we're not going to go. I've got a golf club. And then he hits Mr. Boat in the knee with the golf club. And he's like, now you're down. And Mr. Boat goes down. And it's not good. And then they are captured. They are hostages. Hostages. Cut all that other stuff out and just leave hostages so I sound smart. Okay, so they're hostages now. And then this is where the talking comes in. And there's kind of like there's this game, the first game that I noticed anyway, where the weirdo takes Mrs. Boat outside and is like, let's play warmer or colder, okay? You know that hide and seek game where you're like, there's something warm over here, there's something cold over there. So he's calling out cold, cold, and she's looking for the dog now. And she gets warmer and warmer and warmer, and then she gets hot. And the dog is in the vehicle that they brought over. Opens up the vehicle door, right? A dog flops out, and me as an audience member was like, hate this guy. Definitely. What did the German shepherds ever do to anybody? Ever? Now, in historically, I don't think the dogs were the problem. That's all I'm saying. But the dog just flops out, and it's like, all right, well, we know where this movie's going to go. It's going to be harsh and brutal. Yeah, it gets worse. And this is going to be a hard one to put levity in. So we'll see how it goes. Well, while they're out there, another boating family decides to stop by. But I guess they made enough noise to announce that they're coming. And they're on the lake, right? So this other boat comes up with his, just boating family number 2, right? But it's 3 people. And they come in, and Mr. Short Shorts is there. The thin-haired guy's with the father who's, down and out. And he's all, his knees blown out, right? And the kid's not doing anything. The kid's, 10 years old or something. So Mrs. Boat, Mr. Short Shorts go and greet the new boats. And they have some sort of weird conversation, probably about eggs yet again. I notice the new boat lady, she kind of notices that, this guy's wearing gloves, and he's got really short shorts, and he looks like a Gallagher. This guy's weird. And I think she even mentions, what's with your gloves? And he goes, Mickey was my idol, or something like that. And she's like, okay, that tracks. Germans love Mickey Mouse. Am I allowed to say that? Just leave it in, Bucket Boy. Okay. But, yeah, so they just leave, and you see Mrs. Boat, and she's devastated by them just leaving. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, you didn't hint at anything, did you? I mean, I understand your family's in there, but you could have hinted at something. Or maybe they did. Some sort of language barrier situation I've got going on here. Oh, by the way, I didn't watch this with subtitles. If you didn't notice from the title of this podcast, no subs, no dubs. There's spoilers, but I don't know what's going on really. All I know is visually what I'm seeing, and it's pretty messed up. And it gets even more messy. So they leave. Mr. Boat goes upstairs. He's brought upstairs to a couch to lie down. There's a bunch of talking. There's the weirdos beat up on the family for a bit at this point. And you're like, oh, okay, this isn't pleasant. And then there's more talking. The thin-haired weirdo gets kind of bored. And then he starts crying for some reason. And it's kind of a back and forth scene like, what do you guys want? And they're like, we want to play games with you. Didn't you see the title of the movie? It's Funny Games. It's not Funny Game, it's Funny Games. We already played one. Let's keep playing them. And they're like, oh, okay. I guess this is how this movie's gonna go. And then the thin-haired weirdo, he eats some of the boat's food because he's the fatter guy, so he has to eat. You see him eat, and you're like, oh, okay. And he's not, like, fat, but he's the heavier one, so I'm not fat shaming. I'm just saying, like, I don't know what his name is. Hans or something? Something like that. Maybe I'll call him Hans so I don't offend the fat people listening. Would that make sense? There's Mr. Short Shorts. Mr. Short Shorts speaks for a while, and then he speaks to the audience, and I'm like, oh, uh-oh. You're a little too self-aware. This is not good. And he kind of like, smiles at the audience. And then he decides to put a bag over the hayseed kid's head. And then Mrs. Boat gets naked, but you don't see anything. So it's just her crying. And then they put a nightie on her. So she wears something else for him. And the thin-haired weirdo is really enjoying this show. He's just watching the lady. And he's like, yeah. And I guess it's some sort of like, kid, don't watch your mom get naked because then they take it off right after she gets naked. Or like, look, you saw a dead dog, audience, but you're not going to see any of this lady. I was like, okay. Well, that's how it's going to be. That's how it's going to be. So, moving on. There's some more discussion. There's a lot of discussions in this. This would be very useful if I knew German. I think I could pick up okay. I'm beginning to believe that okay is pretty much the same in every single language at this point. They say okay, and I'm like, okay, I get it. You're saying okay. So I know schnitzel, right? The last time German movie that I watched, I admitted to the fact that I thought I knew what Heil meant, and then I realized I don't think I know what that means. So we don't know. So Mrs. Boat got all naked, blah, blah, blah. She gets dressed again. Oh, yeah, he says bravo. He looks at her, he's like, bravo. And I'm like, okay, I know that word. At this point, one of them's like, hey, take the kid over here, and Mr. Boat lunges, right? He lunges at, I think, the thin-haired guy. He's like, don't do that. And then the kid runs away because Mrs. Boat uses that opportunity to make a distraction as well. And the kid runs away, and he tries to escape from the front door, but he doesn't know how doors work, or locks work or something. I'm like, okay, kid. I don't know how they make doors in Germany, but you click the lock at the top and you run out. But instead, he decides to climb up the stairs, go out the window, and crawl down to the grass below, and then tries to run to the gate and climb up the gate, but he doesn't know how to climb up the gate, or it's too high for him. So he runs away and he gets into the water, and he kind of just, what's not swimming? When you just like let it go to your waist, he just walks through the water to get to the neighbor's house, and then he goes to the house. Well, Mr. Short Shorts is not going to have this. No, he is not. So Mr. Short Shorts pretty much follows him, but he does really slowly, and not like he cares. They don't really seem to care very much. They're smiling. They're very menacing this way too. There's like no, there doesn't seem to be much anger throughout this whole thing. So it's like, okay, you guys are cold. You guys are scary. That's not good. So he follows the kid, and then the thin-haired guy. He just kind of stays with the family, and there's some stuff over there, but it's not as interesting. I think the best part is when the kids getting followed. And I like horror movies, and they do this very well. It's very intense. There's like next to no music besides the classical and the crappy Yoko Ono metal shit. I'll say it. It's shit that was just played randomly, and it gets played at the end. There's that, and then there's just kind of water noises and no noise besides talking, breathing, and cicadas. Germany have grasshoppers. They call it cicadas there. Some insects, German bugs. You hear those kind of things, right? Just sound within the movie itself. So they don't even heighten the tension with music. They just kind of have you go through it, and you feel like you're watching it and you're there, and it's definitely creepy. So the kid, he's all wet. He decides like, I'm going to take off some of my clothes, my wet stuff, my socks and everything, because I walk through here and you can see my tracks. I'm like, this kid is pretty smart. He goes into the mansion we saw earlier. He gets in there and he's hiding, and it's all dark light kind of thing. And it's like, oh, okay. This is following pretty well. This is kind of horror movie-ish. And then you hear that horrible Yoko Ono music again. I forgot that they do it 3 times. And this time it's like, oh no. Because I guess Mr. Short Shorts likes this kind of music. So he plays it. But the kid's found a shotgun at this point, because he's found out what happened to the rich mansion owners. You don't really see anything, but you definitely see like, oh, okay, this is not good. But he sees the shotgun, so he picks it up and he aims at Mr. Short Shorts. Mr. Short Shorts, however, is not concerned, because he's like the devil incarnate or something. So he just walks over and he's like, if you want to kill me, kid, you better cock that back. So the kid does it, and he's like, now you click it. And the kid clicks it, nothing happens, and then Mr. Short Shorts just looks amused, He's like, ah ha ha ha. And then he goes back with the kid to the family. So he goes back to the boats, and he's like, I've got your kid now. This was not good. I'm not happy about this situation. And that's kind of what happens with Earthing. Now, in between, there is some sort of cutting between here and here. It's going the kid's journey, his journey to just come back. And the parents who try to escape, they don't really escape very well. They're all duct taped up, and it's not a good situation. They try to escape. Mrs. Boat's duct tape. Mr. Boat's legs just to smithereens, so he's not in a good spot. He can't just run away. He's been bludgeoned in the knee. So there you go. We're back. There's TV time with the kid coming in, and now the weirdos are armed with a shotgun. They load the shotgun. And this is where I will say this is probably the most disturbing movie I've seen. I was like, oh boy, this is harsh. There's a shotgun thing, and I guess this is another game where Mr. Short Shorts, and thin-haired weirdo have the shotgun, and they're doing eeny, meeny, miny, mo, but in German, so you don't know what the hell they're saying, but it's scary. So they're doing eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and Mr. Short Shorts gives the thin-haired guy the shotgun. He's like, you finish it up. And so he's going, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. I've got the shotgun. It's time for you to go. And we follow Mr. Short Shorts to the kitchen where he's making a sandwich. And it's like, that sandwich looks good. Bang. Sandwich doesn't look so good anymore. Then you hear a scuffling noise. There's a good old scuffle going on. And he finishes making his sandwich, and then we cut back, and it's this, what do they call it, wide shots or something? It's this whole shot of the whole situation, and thin-haired weirdo's gone. Mr. Boat is on the ground. You kind of just see his legs. Mrs. Boat is crying, just devastated. You see snot coming off her face. She's all sweaty and just destroyed. And then you see what makeup department did to a body of what's supposed to be the kid. Yeah. And then you go, holy crap. And the thing about it is, the TV's playing, so the TV's playing some sort of racing, and it's going on, and you pretty much just see the kid, or what's left of it, the mother, who's just staring straight, and the whole situation, and you're like, nope, not for me. Not for me. It was harsh. And it went on forever. She gets up, she turns off the TV, and she gets back to her husband. And they get up, and then they're able to get the duct tape off because Mr. Short Shorts and thin-haired weirdo at this point just kind of left. They don't really care. They're like, we did the damage. His knee's blown out. She's tied up. Well, duct taped up. And the kid's gone. And it's a shotgun blast, so he's definitely gone. And you're like, huh. And I remember watching it and going, I gotta write notes on this now. Oh boy. That was harsh. Well, the weirdos have left. The harshness has settled into your soul. It's gone on for too damn long. It is not a movie that makes you feel comfortable. Horror, I think, sometimes this is an art movie more than a horror movie. And it's so drawn out and it's so boring at times. When it definitely gets going, it's going, and it's harsh. And I see technical spots and certain things where I'm like, wow, that's really a nice composition. It's a nice shot. It looks good. The actors are doing fantastic. I hate this movie. I wouldn't recommend it. I wouldn't recommend it to the We Recommend people. And now that I'm talking about it, I'm like, maybe this isn't the movie I should have shouted out them on. Maybe it should have been a more fun movie. This movie is not fun. This movie is, yeah, gut punch. And it make you feel sick, to be honest. It's sickening. So the people left. They screwed off, the weirdos screwed off, and they left the parents to deal with this situation. The parents end up going downstairs, and Mr. Boat hobbles downstairs and gets downstairs. Mrs. Boat, she ends up changing and then getting ready to go out, and she's like, I'm gonna find help. You stay here, fix this old brick crappy phone that fell in water and is destroyed. So he gets a hairdryer out and he's hair drying it, He's like, as long as I can dry this out, I can call 911 or 911. He's going to call the special police, and they're going to come out there and they're going to get the weirdos. Well, no, it doesn't really work out that way, but that's what they want. And they're upset because they're like, all this over eggs? And that's what I was thinking too. Just because he didn't get his omelet, this is devastating. This is terrible. But it is what it is. So if you're at this point in this movie, or podcast even, let's just plow forward, I guess. So Mrs. Boat ends up leaving. She gets through the fence. She runs around. She's just destroyed. She's doing a hell of a job acting. It's almost like the director actually did torture her, She's doing a great job. It's a sweaty movie, too. Everyone's sweating in it, and I was even sweating watching it. I was watching them sweat, and my sweat glands were like, we gotta join them, And it made me sick. Maybe I needed mouthwash. I wanted to rinse my eyes out with mouthwash after that scene. So she's running along. She stops by the mansion, screams at it a little bit, and then, the people are dead in there, so she can't get the mansion people that she first met. So she's running along, and it's a gorgeous movie. At night, I was like, wow, they shot this very well. And she sees a car coming, so she kind of hides, and then the car drives off, and she's like, wait a second, I shouldn't have hid. I should try to get this car to stop. That was silly of me. And then she turns around, and another car's there, and she waves at it. It's not someone to help. But we'll get into that later, because we go back to Mr. Boat. And Mr. Boat is putting covers, a blanket or something. He's putting a cover over his kid because the kid's gone. And you don't really see it up close. You saw the damage earlier. And that's all you needed to see. So I was like, okay, let's put this over the kid. Thank goodness. And he turns around and he hears a golf ball rolling. And that means that the killers, the weirdos, are back. Mr. Short Shorts is there, his wife, and he's there. And then they beat him up for a little bit. And it cuts to like the next morning. And they're on a couch. And she's all ball gagged. And he's all bloodied in the face and whatnot. For sure. And the parents are all beaten up. And they're on the couch. Okay? So, this is not a good situation. And Mr. Short Shorts is there. Thin-haired fella is there. They're messing with the shotgun that they had earlier. Thin-haired guy's loading it up. Mr. Short Shorts is there. He's talking. He's monologuing. He ends up talking just too long. I think they had an argument before, too, the thin-haired guy and Mr. Short Shorts. But they were just talking a little bit. And then it was one of these, I've got a shotgun. He's got a knife. Which one of you two want to die? I guess. I don't know. It doesn't seem like they give him much of a choice because I think they stab Mr. Boat to death, but you don't really see it. You just hear the scuffling again. Mr. Boat's not in a good spot at this point. And then there's some more monologuing, and then he kind of puts the shotgun down, and he releases Mrs. Boat from her ball gag so she'll get on her knees and look up at him to basically say, like, kill me now, I think. It doesn't go into Jimmy rustling. Nothing like that. You know, it's weird. I think they just want to torture and kill this family, which is rustling enough, but it not into the Jimmy situation. She's just on her knees because he's talking to her and he wants her to be his acolyte or something at this point. Well, she's not having it, so she grabs the shotgun when she gets a chance and shoots thin-haired weirdo. Now, Mr. Short Shorts does not like this, not one bit. So he kind of pushes her out of the way, starts freaking out, and he's talking about something that he needs, and then he grabs it, and it's a remote control. And he pauses everything and rewinds the situation, and we rewind with him. So everything rewinds, and it goes back, and thin-haired weirdo's alive now. And Mr. Short Shorts is fine, and he's monologuing again. And then she reaches for the gun, but this time he's rewound the tape so he can grab it before she does. And then he basically hits her, and he's like, I cheated. And you're like, well, that's not surprising. You're a cheat and a murderer. But it's the hypocrisy, right? It's the hypocrisy that's the worst. And it's the cheating that's the worst. So he cheats. And then they take her out and they go on the boat. And finally, you're like, okay, we're going to be boating now. And she's all tied up and she finds the knife that fell earlier. You know, like she's got one more chance. She's trying to cut her rope that's around her hands and it's not really working. And Mr. Short Shorts and thin-haired weirdo are laughing about it. And then they grab her and pick her up and sit her in between them. And then they just push her. They push her backwards and she falls into the lake and I assume drowns. And then you think, okay, well, this sucks. That's pretty much the end. And then, not really. They go to the other boaters. Remember the other boating family? They go to that place. I guess the other boating family is like, we're down the lake over there. So Mr. Short Short shows up and he comes in and he's like, hey, do you got any eggs? And they're like, yeah, we got eggs. And so you hear him kind of leaving and you just see Mr. Short Shorts and his Gallagher face. And he looks over and he smiles and he's like looking straight in the camera. And then it's that crappy music, the Yoko Ono crap music with metal underneath playing. And then that's the end. And that is the end. Holy smokes. Let's cut this one down a bit too, Baka Boy. Oh, this movie. Alright, the review part. Disturbing. Upsetting. Technically pretty decent. I can't say it was, poorly made. You know? I think, like, I would... this is hard. I think I would rather watch Arzu again than this one. And Arzu was complete crap. But I don't want to just say that and then rate this worse than that, because that is a worse movie by far, but that was a more fun movie, even though that was a harsh subject matter as well, you know? We got to get a lighter movie going on. We're going to get something fun. The comedies don't really translate very well. Maybe a nice action movie. And not one of these horrific action movies. Not one of these movies where... And the thing is, you see like most of the damage afterwards that happens. You don't really see it on screen. So that's kind of thank God, you know? This is one of those, like, you sip your coffee and you do a film analysis and you put that out on YouTube kind of movies. This is one of those. How does this shot make you feel? Because it's 10 minutes in one spot and it's very uncomfortable. Well, yeah, it makes me feel uncomfortable. That was harsh. That was pretty much it. It was a harsh, horrible movie that makes you feel like shit when you watch it. Well, it looks pretty good. The acting's incredible. It's one of these sweaty movies. Yeah. I don't know. A soft 3, maybe. Maybe a hard 2. It was like, I can appreciate some of it because it was well made. I can appreciate the acting. I can dislike it entirely and never want to watch it again. And feel crappy that my producer was like, well, you gotta watch these movies twice so you know how to actually review them. I don't know. It might go lower. The more I think about it, the more I'm like, yeah, this is like a good... If you were wanting to make a horror movie and you wanted to make it super uncomfortable and make people very upset afterwards, you could go this route. Or if you want to make it like a Saw and have it be entertaining movie, you could go that way. This was not entertaining. This was not fun, but I can't say it was bad. I just can't say it was bad. Just was horrible. It's like watching a well-made snuff film. And that's what I'm going to leave it at. That's all I'm going to say. Patreon.com/no subs, no dubs. Twitter.com/no subs, no dubs pod. And then go listen to We Recommend. They don't recommend crappy movies like this one. Maybe they like it. I don't know. But so far they haven't recommended anything that I don't like. And I like their banter pretty good. So go check them out. Give them 5 stars and give us a hard 5 out of 5. Not one of those soft, wimpy 5 out of 5s. Not some sort of flaccid 5 out of 5, but give us a nice, throbbing, veiny 5 out of 5. And tell your friends, your family, preferably your rich ones, and subscribe, like, all that kind of stuff. Find us, listen next week. And I'm KCK, the Kamikaze Kid, blowing up all over this bitch. Take away, Baka boy. That's life. I don't know if you know much about German history, but they've done some wars and other things. And they like sausages, so I'll give them that. But the wars aren't good. And then they like dungeons. They like sex dungeons, if you can believe that. That's Germany's famous for war, sex dungeon, and sausages. And possibly torturing people's sausages. Oh, and, the Holocaust and whatnot. So, you're gonna watch a German movie. I don't think you're gonna laugh. And one called Funny Games coming out of Germany, not very funny. I'd rather watch Whose Line Is It Anyway, which is the ultimate funny game. Prove me wrong. I'm just saying.